All right, guys. Today we're back with another episode of the podcast. This starts our cast project, which is basically just a small series of episodes of our podcast talking about things that are important to us. And for this first group, we are doing me and Paige, and we are talking about performative activism and Gen Z culture. Yes.
Yeah, so this is what we are talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
So
so,
I think the general Gen Z culture that we have is kind of weird because the internet has changed the way we interact with others in our world a lot, and we're the first culture that's really had, I think, a definitive culture as a generation.
mhm. And it's very unique for the time period that we live in, not just because of the internet, but we kind of just we've lived through and after so many events that have happened in the world, we're
It's a
the
little
only generation. What?
it's a little wild.
Yeah, we're the only generation that's alive right now that hasn't experienced 9/11. A fair couple of a fair part of the generation has, but for the most of us, because Gen Z was born only just started only a couple years before 9/11, the fair amount of us we don't really all of us don't remember 9/11, but a fair amount of us weren't even alive, so we're just experiencing the after effects of it.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
it's impacted our government and stuff like that. And then not a lot of us remember really. We can remember aspects of this time period, but not anything concrete about the news or anything. But the financial crisis and the real estate crisis in the US of 2008 and the impacts on the way that people behave, I think is another thing that has kind of shaped the worldview of this generation.
Mhm. And because of, those 2 things combined, because of how the government reacted to it, because of how, people have reacted to, those events in general, we have a lot of, um, a lot of new political, like, actions and, there's just been a lot of politics that have been polarized and political perspectives that have really shaped the world around us that we just kind of grew up used to. And not only that, but um terror attacks have gotten worse since 9/11. That was the biggest terror attack beforehand. 9/11 was the biggest one of the generation, and then suddenly all of these big ones started happening. We all can remember Pulse, and some of us were even not really well. Not a lot of us are have very strong memories, but I personally can remember watching the ends of Sandy Hook happening live on TV, and all of that sort of stuff, because they started so early on into our age. It's just been something that we're used to and conditioned to watching, all of these huge horrible things happening on the news because we're capable of watching them live now.
Yeah, I feel especially with the post 9/11 world, the news does tend to only put up those extremely terrible, life-changing stories, and that's really most of what it talks about. Because I remember with the Sandy Hook shooting, that was the first really big world event. I was in fifth or sixth grade, or maybe fourth, and I'd come home and the TV was on, and I was doing my homework, and I was watching the footage of kids being evacuated. And the first major terror attack that I remember actually happening in my lifetime would probably be the Paris one. I remember where I was and reading about it. So it's just kind of weird, like as a generation, to have all these big events happening, because we're kind of in our world where there's a lot of global mass media, where like whenever somebody like talks about something, somebody can learn about it on the other side of the world. And as soon as something big happens, all the news sources are around it, and it's all talked about.
Yeah.
Fun.
What else has happened? So overall, like the biggest thing that I think that is important is that like all of this stuff has happened in a short period of time for us. Like we are 17, 18, and a lot of these huge events kind of shaped our perspective. Not only that, but right now we're living through a pandemic. And like along with like global warming and or climate change and all of these other like huge like world changing events happening, we've kind of just had a more pessimistic look on our current world, but it caused, instead of like just being like, okay, well, whatever, we realized that we are the ones that have to live with the consequences of it. And instead it caused like an uprising of our generation demanding a more hopeful and brighter future. So now we have stuff like the Black Lives Matter movement. We kind of our generation encouraged like LGBT like marriage to be legalized all throughout the United States. We demand trans rights and all sorts of other like not it's not like we quote unquote started the fire, but we definitely were the ones to make it brighter in a sort of way. Like we want to our world to be better. What?
No, I was referencing that one song.
What? We didn't start the fire?
Didn't start the fire. It was always burning.
Yeah, exactly.
Along that same lines of like activism and everything, there's been a lot of good changes in our lives as Gen Zers. Like, you know, the interconnectedness of the world allows people to interact with different cultures, and there's also a lot of technological advancements too. And I think with the technology and everything comes the rise of social media, and the way that kind of all those movements and like causes and everything have kind of culminated into us being able to like really communicate together as a generation.
Yeah. So, oh my god, what's that alert noise? Sorry.
Maybe if you muted your alert.
No, I don't have it. I have my alerts muted. Anyways, that can be just edited out, I guess. So basically, like with this rise of social media, we have like all of this news shoved down our throats, and we're constantly like bombarded with like, hey, this happened like at the Capitol building. Whoopsies. This like we are always like flooded with alerts from like, you know, any news apps that we have. Like even sometimes we have like Amber Alerts. You can't turn those off, obviously. So like anytime like you're just trying to calm down, decompress, like take a break, sometimes you'll have like an Amber Alert, and you're constantly reminded, oh, this is happening in the world. Yeah, exactly. And that kind of just like sets a very pessimistic view. But yet again, we're constantly striving towards like changing the world, like putting in legislation that could potentially prevent these issues from happening, or whatever. And like these encourage these events encourage like people from a younger age to be more conscious of what's happening in your local, federal, like state governments, or local national and state governments. I don't know, man. But like you're constantly encouraged, like, hey, if this is happening, then maybe I could potentially change it. And so it does have some benefits, but at the end of the day, like, yeah, it does stem from a lot of like stress from social media and like just the interconnectedness.
Yeah, and I think that, like, we have a way to connect with them where they are, and like it allows for communities to come together, like you're saying, with the activism, and like the Black Lives Matter movement. Like Black people have a space online, where they can come to be supported by one another, all that good stuff. But it's also like a platform where people are constantly like comparing themselves to others. And I think, Gen Zers are always aware of other people, and that creates a kind of empathy, especially because the kind of situation we've grown up in. But it also makes it, I think, difficult for a person to kind of have faith in themselves or whatever.
Yeah, and it does also like all of the insecurity does also cause people to like want to let out their insecurity on other people, which can create cyberbullying and just like a constant feeling of judgment, which can create like anxiety in like younger people. So like the constant bombardment of information, like it doesn't always it does have like a lot of negative effects even when you're like connected to a community that you enjoy.
Yeah, and I think Bobby and Taylor are really going to go into that in a later episode we have planned, focusing on mental health. Um, but yeah, I feel like the comparison and like all that stuff, it's not the best. And I think people are like constantly comparing themselves, even in things that don't really need to be compared. Like, with all the activism that you talked about and everything, I think that it's become almost a trend for people to try and, seem as woke as they possibly can be. And how people are like, I need to be a better activist than XYZ because, this reason or that reason. And like, that's, yay, performative activism, which is another topic of this episode. And the official definition of that is activism done to increase one's social capital rather than because of one's devotion to a cause. It's often associated with surface level activism.
And so we collected an assortment of examples of social of performative activism for the listeners, and some examples that you might find on your daily browsing of Instagram, Facebook, or whatever you may choose, is adding BLM to your bio and not doing anything from there. Blackout day, which is basically on Instagram when you post a black square to your account, thinking that that'll somehow make the U.S. government do something about the rights of others. Spamming quote unquote activist posts on your Instagram story. For example, the ones with the fancy fonts that say, the XYZ happened. Here's what you should know about it. And petitions, which is something that we're going to go further into because petitions do have a lot of really positive effects on the world if they're the right petitions. However, not all of them are capable of having those effects solely because of like laws and like other things like surrounding it. But yeah, we're going to go into that a bit.
Yeah, and I think like, a lot of the stuff isn't bad. It just kind of demonstrates a lack of information and like a need to fit in. Like performative activism is something that we see a lot, especially from celebrities and big companies, where Nike will post something about Black Lives Matter, but you don't see them donating. You don't see them, actually like doing anything for the communities that are impacted. Or celebrities will be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I totally care about this issue, and then like again donate nothing, like not make a consistent effort, go over their super yacht and like continue to do their thing away from the world. But it's like with the social capital thing of the definition, it's done to like to increase somebody's like credit and like how good of a person they are instead of them actually caring about the issue. And it's like pretty sad. And like it's good to be informing people and everything, but especially like with the story spam posts, but you have to actually read and devote yourself to the issues. And I think people feel a need to say, well, I got to cover the most that I can. Well, like, no, like, focus on, you know, what might be happening around you that you can change.
Yeah, so it's you see it a lot on like places like Instagram where you have like a majority of like our demographic, because so many people want to like, you know, it's high school, you want to increase your social standing, like whatever. But it like Paige said, it doesn't do a lot. Keeping people educated is important, but you can do that in a lot of different ways. And so I have some examples of how people have used social media to make a genuinely good impact on their community, because they are in a place where they have that ability to they use their social media in a way to impact their community instead of like the world itself, you know, because performative activism is kind of like, oh, here's what's happening this in this country, and like, you know, here's what's happening a little bit in our country, but you know, it's in other states. We can't really do a whole lot about that because sadly we are teenagers and we don't have the money or the means to travel out there and protest or do something that can really make a genuinely good impact. However, we do have that ability to impact our community around us. So I'm going to go into 3 people who have made an impact on their community. However, like the last person, he does have a little bit of a more like online presence. So the first one is Mary Copenny, who's called, and I quote, Little Miss Flint. In 2016, she wrote a letter to Obama and like persuaded him to come visit Flint. There, she harnessed the national attention that she was, and using that power that she had, increased like her standing more. So you can start off small, just write a letter to the president. But yeah, like you can see, she had more of an ethos, if you will. Just ethos, like she used. Then there's Muhammad Naj. I'm not gonna bother to pronounce his last name because I know I'm going to get it wrong and then I'll feel bad. But he uses Twitter and Instagram feed like filled with selfies of him in his environment, of like exploding bombs, falling buildings, and like the anger and frustration that he's seen for like the past like decade in Syria, to like spread awareness of like what's happening in his home country. And here's a quote from the article I got this information from. Since he was 14 years old, Najim has made it his mission to show the world the effects the war has had on his town in eastern Ghouta and the rest of Syria. I probably pronounced that wrong. Sorry. With the help of his older brother, he made a YouTube and Twitter account and started to share footage with the world. He has shared the story of how his father was killed in a bombing, videos of the walls of his home falling apart around him, and the remnants of what he said used to be his school. So he used common ways of like sharing information, like sharing pictures or whatever, to just like show firsthand experience. It doesn't take a whole lot of effort. It doesn't take like writing a twit longer, or it doesn't take like writing an aesthetic like photo on Instagram using like I don't know, Photoshop or something like that to say here's what's happening in Syria. No, like just you can use like you can use video evidence, photos, like firsthand accounts, and just put in effort in where it counts instead of in like where instead of like things that can easily be overlooked. You don't have to put in all of the effort into like the fancy things. Just spread information where information is needed, and don't put in all of that effort into places that could easily be put into to genuinely put out information that the world may need to know.
Yeah, and I think that the problem with those like aesthetic what's going on in blank posts turns it into a spectacle as opposed to an actual issue. Like it dehumanizes people to the point of, it doesn't talk about the impact, rather it gives a summary. And that's of course not true for all of them, but I think it's an issue because people should be trying to spread awareness for that, and a lot of the times they try to make something as shareable as possible, not for the reasons that we need to get this out, but for the reasons that, this is what's going to look best on people's feeds. This is what's going to get me the most clicks.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of like the accounts kind of do it more for like the likes, and then like a secondary reason is for the like the actual information, which I'm sure isn't true with all of the accounts, but at the same time it is what is conveyed through like the format and all of that. And
Yeah.
kind of we're going to get into this a little bit later, but it's kind of problematic because it like encourages a culture of this gets me likes and it does this, instead of
Yeah.
just like, it gets the information out that should be given to the world.
Yeah, I know. I follow a lot of accounts focusing on like global human rights issues and things that are happening in America. And my favorites or the ones that I find to be the most impactful, are the ones that are actually run by people who are impacted by the issue. Like what you said with Mohammed Najem, um, who used his social media presence. I follow a lot of accounts run by Black people in America who are seeking to speak out about an issue, and a lot of accounts, run by Native people who are trying to bring awareness to what's happening in their communities. And I think performative activism stops people from listening and starts a trend out of trying to be the most like woke, and by putting out all this information when really people just need to step back and listen to the people who are actually impacted by an issue.
Yeah, I find that a lot of those accounts also do a lot of speaking on people's behalfs instead of giving quotes, or instead of like asking people to, I don't know, guest star or whatever, like add their own content and speak out for themselves. There's a lot of like, this is what we should be doing, instead of this is what we're asked to do. Essentially, the third person is Zach Ahmed, and he is the CEO founder of GAUV Consulting, and he started a nonprofit organization called Redify that is dedicated as a quote-unquote hub for youth activism, a teen-run news outlet for students to write about their topics. So that does include some performative activism, but he does do a little bit of talking about like why movements are movements, and not like and not just people demand attention and stuff like that, which is very important. And he does that on his TikTok the most Gen Z way possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, some good can come out of it, but at the same time, it's a little bit performative. Do you want to talk about cancel culture, or
I don't want
okay.
God. No. It's something that's so awful. Like,
Yeah.
somebody can get canceled for something like I know one like girl who like all she does is like TikTok dances or whatever. She got like canceled, quote unquote, for being a picky eater. Like when the thing with cancel culture is it's every time some large figure does a small thing wrong, they run the risk of getting canceled for it. When larger infractions or things that are completely horrible can go unnoticed because of how like powerful socially somebody is. Like it focuses on, this person did this. Oh my gosh, that's so terrible. And it focuses on how well liked a person is as opposed to, what they actually did, I think a lot of the time. Like you have Jeffree Star who is consistently racist, and I don't even think he's put out an apology for some of the things that he said about black people. He still has a massive following when somebody can get canceled for being a picky eater. And it shows a lot of the ridiculousness, I think, of the kind of online activism horde of people who, will cancel somebody easy to cancel because they're younger or don't have as much of a platform, but they don't address the real problems going on with some of the most like beloved creators or whatever.
Yeah, I think and we can like I guess start the discussion here considering the last part is like it's whatever. It's not as important as this. Um but like we can start the discussion here, but I just wanted to add like I think it's so ridiculous how a lot of people can be canceled not by their audience who I think is like canceling people isn't something that should happen at all. I feel like it's
I,
something that I think we've grown past the need for because canceling has such like a not like it has such a negative connotation. Like
I feel
canceling
like
someone.
canceling is warranted if somebody's done something really, really horrible. But I don't think it should be referred to like I feel like canceling is something that lacks so much seriousness.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to say. Like I think it's something that when someone does something bad, they should be held accountable in a serious way and not a canceling way because that is such like it's 2021. We've grown past the need to refer to holding like a pedophile accountable for his actions by calling him by saying that he's canceled. Like no, that's something so sorry, it was too soon. But like, like I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Carson. Like that's just something that happened to you. You shouldn't be canceled. You should be put in federal prison for what you
Yeah.
did.
For listeners who don't know, a popular online creator, Call Me Carson, was revealed to be a predator talking to underage girls. Good for
Yeah. So
good for him.
yeah. I just think it's like, you know, if someone has done something that is genuinely terrible, we shouldn't be calling it cancellation. We should be calling it like
Put them in.
actually holding him
Okay, I
accountable,
should have said
putting him
that.
in jail.
We can,
But yeah, the audience should be holding people like their favorite creators accountable for their actions, and like they shouldn't be people who actively seek out the destruction of creators that they don't like. Like that's just not something that's not a proper way of handling things. A popular creator recently got canceled for things that he said in the past and has apologized for things that aren't honestly like a huge deal because people dug up old footage of him back when he had a different audience, and like that was something that attracted that audience, and that was something that his audience liked, and he apologized for it because his audience has grown and developed since then, and he has also grown and matured since then. So digging up old footage of the content creator and saying, hey, haha, you're a terrible person, you are racist, homophobic, transphobic, etc., all things that he never even alluded to with like the two things that he said that was like slightly quote unquote problematic. That's not the productive way to handle important things.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's open up discussion to the rest of the members.
Hi, members. What do you want to say?
You know who I think we should cancel?
Me.
Just the jury in any court trial, because they're like the ultimate like cancel culture kind of bullshit, you know?
Okay,
Like,
facts.
no more
actually,
juries.
So, wait, are you claiming
The
Yes,
Phoenix Wright
Brian.
universe already did it.
are you claiming that trials are just government cancellations?
Yes. And I'm saying that they should stop.
OJ Simpson
Okay,
got
then,
canceled?
Taylor, then how would we punish criminals?
Stoning.
Himbos would go to their house, and that would be it.
They would just
No, it wouldn't be himbos. It would be ooh.
What if they had to do cat?
So many things. So many things. Oh God. What is the worst group of people? Reddit.
Reddit admin.
Reddit admins. We send Reddit admins to their house like hitmen, and they just kill them.
Is this allowed
I
to
don't think
be said on a podcast?
Listen.
Edit it out.
I don't think
Yeah.
anybody's gonna listen this far.
Yeah, you're right. I'm not gonna cut. I'm not gonna cut anything major out, but Rachel.
Oh, why?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I believe we're cutting Rachel out. That was so mean of you.
Okay.
Has been canceled.
I can hear
mean, I must say though, the whole thing with cancel culture, and like we'll talk about the other things that you talked about because those are also important. Cancel culture isn't as important, let's be honest. But I think that like you said, the reputation of it now and just like the overall connotation, it's gotten like really bad because, like you said, there are things that people have done or have been quote unquote exposed for, and they should just be thrown in prison. You know what I'm saying? Like legal action should be taken. Let's say, for example, I don't know if you're familiar with the tattoo artist Romeo Lacoste.
Oh my god, that hair. Is he the one that does the really like tiny tattoos that fade after 3 years?
I actually don't really know, but I kind of followed him a little bit on Instagram before everything happened. And I was like, because I was getting into like just tattoo art overall. And I was just looking at it, I was like, that's cool. But then when I found out, I was like, why are people like canceling him when he should be like, taken to court?
What did
Because
he do?
he was messaging underage girls on Instagram.
Oh, wow.
Yes, his fans, I suppose. Apparently they were his fans.
He pulled a Carson.
Yeah,
That
call
is
it that.
not occur. We should not refer to full-on pedophilia as pulling a Carson.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was like in his. I don't even know how old he is, but like I think it was like a pretty. Not saying that any age gap is okay. I'm just saying that like it was really bad.
You should be born
It
on
was
the same
awful.
day in order to date somebody. No age gap.
Yeah, 0 age gap. Born the same day, same time. Okay, that's all I had to
I
say.
think what's weird about cancel culture is there are some really, really crazy people who cancel like other celebrities. They like find their like house address, their phone number, they harass them
They
because
dox them.
yeah, like even if they might be in the wrong, I don't think it's good to violate someone's privacy like beyond the extent that they deserve. Like
Yeah, I
if the
completely
victim is
agree.
coming out, that is their choice, but it's not the choice of the defendant to like release information that they don't want publicly exposed. Like that could be in like a trial or like an investigation. It doesn't have to be on social media.
Right, because any normal person. Sorry, what was that? I thought it was Bobby. Any normal, like, regular person who isn't in the spotlight, like, if they were to, if something were to happen and they were like, you committed a really bad crime, they're not going to be canceled on Twitter for it. They're going to go to prison, if anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, the celebrities are human beings, and I know they use that excuse for literally everything else, but, like, when it comes to this stuff, they should be treated like everyone else.
Exactly. Like the jury doesn't dox them.
Yeah, the only difference is a few $1 million. Okay, relax.
Exactly.
I would like
Yeah.
to say though, first, like, so not all things people get canceled for are inherently criminal. Like just being racist or homophobic or ableist, those are also cancelable things. And while I don't think they should be canceled because that's just extreme, I do believe there should be some form of punishment, whether that just be like losing followers or like getting banned from the platform you are on because you violated the terms of service or something like that. Like I agree canceling is too much, but I believe there does have to be some form of punishment.
Yeah, and that's what we mean by like, holding them accountable. Yeah, that's what we mean by like holding them accountable.
Yeah, I know, but the thing is, I think a lot of people use canceling as this umbrella term for stuff they do when they don't like someone. Like, I'm canceling them. Like, someone could be like, I'm unfollowing them on YouTube, or canceling could be like, I'm going to say some like really terrible stuff about them, or someone's going to be like, I'm going to pull a lawsuit against them. Like, I think people have varying like degrees of cancellation. I don't think that word is applicable to every context of like holding someone accountable.
Yeah, I think there should be like a proper way how to like not exactly like specify the degree to which a cancellation has occurred, but I think like there should at least be some awareness of like the extent to which like someone deserves to be quote unquote canceled for their actions if like canceling someone is something that should happen at all, because let's be honest, speaking in your native language is not a way how you should be canceled. That has happened to a content creator before who is Mexican and spoke in Spanish, and his haters just said, you know what, that's not your language to speak in. Yes, it is. He was born in Mexico.
Wait, even if you're not born in the country that you speak in, like even if you're not born there, you have
learning
like
another language
heritage.
is racist.
Oh my god.
Guys,
damn,
you're all
I'm
talking
really
over each other.
racist.
Irene, I'm sorry. Yeah. You're racist.
Okay, listen. Kate, that I can't believe that happened. I just would like to say I never heard of that before. That's stupid.
I think I know who
Jesus
Kate. Are you
Christ.
talking about Quackity?
Quackity? Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah,
I also
that's
think
what
that something
happens when you get.
that should be taken into consideration is timing. Like you mentioned earlier, somebody who was canceled for something that years ago, and I remember examples of like I remember at one time Genghis Khan was canceled. Genghis Khan lived thousands of years ago. Canceling him accomplishes nothing.
Isn't death cancellation enough?
Yeah, and like you have to
His
consider
life subscription
the atmosphere
ended.
people around. Like obviously, some Genghis Khan did some horrible things, but at the time that was okay. So
It was not okay
canceling
at the time either.
No, I mean like it was something that was generally accepted as like as a way how to get their means done. Yes, it was not okay, but at the same time it was something that was at least not commonplace but never not seen before.
Because my philosophy is that all people are a product of the society they grow up in. Whether they rebel against it or they go with it, they are in fact a product of that society. So judging someone by modern standards who is ancient isn't really fair per se, and they shouldn't be subjected to cancellation because of it. Like in 1,000 years.
Okay, here's the thing. Would people have canceled Hitler back then? I just want to know. Like, because there are a lot of.
Bobby was still speaking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, like in 1,000 years, honestly, we'll probably be canceled for something we see that's completely normal now. It probably will have to do something to do with the climate, if I'm being honest.
If we're still alive, then. Anyways.
When they were younger, they used plastics. They have to be canceled. All right, sorry, Sveta, continue.
Yeah. Oh no, I just want someone else to speak. Tisha, Rachel, you haven't said anything yet.
I just want to say.
Discussion.
I don't know if Rachel texted me saying that if she got cut out, so I don't know if she's.
Oh no, I can hear now. I'm good.
Okay.
I just had to leave and come back. Hello.
Okay.
Bobby, I do want to say before we move on, the same content creator Quackity was the one who got canceled for like his audience changing and like how he evolved his content, and I think that's a big reason why he got quote unquote canceled for speaking his own language, because like you know when you're audience changes as rapidly as like a content creator like Quackity for moving on to a different platform and like moving on to a different style of like video creation, and just content creation in general. People don't have enough of an idea of like what his videos were back then and like how he did something, and like, you know, your personality can't change as rapidly as like your content does and as rapidly as your fan base is forced into. And because of that, sometimes you have to end up paying the price in the form of you getting canceled for being yourself.
Yeah, I also
it's
think.
stupid.
Oh, sorry. Are you done?
I'm done.
Okay. Another thing I think is also prevalent is that for some reason, the people who are the kind of people who cancel things, once they find one small, no matter how small it is, once they find one thing wrong, they want to pile it up more and more and more. So they'll keep digging up dirt as much as they can until they can absolutely demonize the person to the most extent that they can. So like that's what I thought of when you said like that Quackity was like they started out with something he said all those years ago, and then they were like, how else can we make him look bad? Ooh, speaking Spanish. Like, and then going on, they kept doing it, and I don't know, I don't like that. I don't like any of this, to be honest.
Well, I mean, okay, but the whole thing with like speaking a different language or like another language that you know is just it's just like where is the bad in that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I feel
like
people
I speak
on
Spanish.
Twitter like exaggerate it so much.
Yeah,
Twitter-
yeah, they make they can Twitter has the ability to make nothing into literally everything, and it's it's good and bad. But go ahead, Rachel.
need to
Honestly,
hear them-
whenever I got a Twitter recently with like within the past couple months, and every time I look at it, I just like lose so much morality. Not morality in the sense of like good versus,
Morale.
like, morale. Thank you, Paige. I lose so much morale. I just look at it and I'm like, oh god, again. Like, usually it's because of politics. Sometimes it's because of things like this. But just like, why do people always focus on the negative? You know?
Well, okay. Before I let Rachel talk, real quick, I think it's mostly because people think that when they can cut someone else down, it's better for them. So it'll just make them feel good about themselves. I think that part of it is that. But anyway, go ahead, Rachel. Sorry.
I was just gonna say that, like, I would like to try to hear people try to justify without sounding racist. Like,
Exactly.
I don't know, it's really stupid. Please try to justify saying, I don't want you speaking this language because I don't want you to, without sounding racist. Please tell me how. It's so annoying and stupid, and it infuriates me. That's all I had to say. Thanks for listening.
Yeah,
I agree.
And even somebody learning a language that they're no way connected to, like, there's a very small chance that can be problematic. Like, I know that some people fetishize a certain, like, race or culture, but even then, they don't make a full effort to learn the language. Like, in order to do that, like, you really have to be dedicated. And I know in school, part of something that's like most important to learning a language is learning about the culture too. So yeah,
that reminds me. We don't have to talk about this at all, but I just want to bring it up because I think Shveta can also speak about it. Ollie London wanting to be who from K-pop? I don't know, but that's like
I was gonna
we can
explain
talk
this
about more about that
podcast
tomorrow. Yeah, but I'm just mentioning it because that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, the fetishizing. Anyway, summary of it for now. He wanted to be Jimin from BTS, and then he fetishized like being Korean and said he was Korean because he was 1% Korean in a DNA test. So he moved to Korea and started making Korean songs, but he can't pronounce the word hello in Korean. That's all I want to say.
And obviously, sorry, what was that, Bobby?
I was gonna say, I think it's okay to be proud of something if you like actually are that thing, but pretending you are and like idolize, like that's just that is basically appropriation.
Okay, I don't know what I was just gonna say. I forgot completely, but should we move on?
Do you want to talk about the other two topics that they discussed?
Yeah, let's talk about racism and performative activism. Sure. What was I gonna say about that? I don't even remember. Okay, someone else talk.
Which one are we talking about first? Sorry.
Activism.
Okay.
And
I have something to say about it.
go ahead.
Thank you, Irene. Thank you, Edeni, for letting me
You're
go.
welcome.
Anyways, there was one thing that you guys talked about that stood out to me. It was like the making an impact on like a smaller scale kind of thing. I really liked that point because there's people have a hard time finding things to do on that. You know, they look at the big global issues and like they think like what can I do? But one thing that is definitely very like accessible to people in a way and that is easy is just like if you I'm on Twitter all the time and which I know is like admitting I'm a degenerate, but anyways, so you see a lot of like
Both of us.
you see a lot of like yeah on Twitter though you see a lot of like petitions that you can sign, and that is something that is like helpful, but it but another thing that I see a lot is like personal GoFundMes, and like GoFundMes for like Flint, Michigan, or like there's been one that I've been seeing going around, which is like helping this trans man escape from his transphobic family. So just like stuff like that you could do on a small scale is really helpful if you can donate any money. But yeah, other than that, you can sign petitions. You can like I don't know, put your ideas on the internet. Those infographics are really annoying, but they're like informative. They are informative, but they are everywhere, and they're a lot to sift through all the time. It would be better just to like give people sources to go and read, but people are too lazy to go and read the actual sources, and so they would rather a pretty and colorful photo to summarize all the information from a well-written article, that kind of thing.
It's Twitter. People can't read more than 140 characters.
Yeah, you're right. This is kind of, how do I explain this? Like, I'll admit, like, I do post some, I guess, infographics, I guess. I try not to because they're really annoying. It, like, in the receiving aspect too. So, if you want, I don't know how helpful this is. I try my best. I put, like, I have a link in my bio. No, I'm not like an influencer, obviously, so no one actually cares, but I try my best, you know what I'm saying? So you can do those things and, visit those websites, and like there's a lot of ideas on how you can help aside from, just posting a black screen and calling it a day or a year,
Yeah, and I wanted to say with the
sorry, I just wanted to make 2 points. First, Taylor was talking about how people raising money and things. I want to say one thing that I dislike that people do to quote unquote raise money is those posts where it's like every repost this gets will donate $1 to, because those are actually 9 times out of 10 probably fake and just made up for clout, and that they're really unhelpful. And 2, after Paige goes, I'd like to bring up another topic. So, Paige, go ahead.
Yeah, my thing is really short. I remember somebody mentioned posting the black screen, and when that was actually happening, people who were like actually out there protesting were like, please stop doing this. Every time we put something out with this hashtag, that could pertain to the protests, it gets swallowed up by all these black screens that people are posting to be woke, because people were actually trying to post important information for people who were actively doing things. Like the Seattle protest begins at XYZ hour, but they couldn't because things in that hashtag and everything were just swallowed up.
Oh yeah, I do remember that. They said don't hashtag it as Black Lives Matter. I know, like the technical hashtag was Blackout Tuesday, but yeah, I do remember hearing about that. So anyway, yes, if you want to, there are going to be resources in the description for everyone. Okay. Go ahead,
I'd like
Bobby.
to bring up something else in performative activism, which
I take it away.
Quite often, is weaponizing guilt. What do you guys think about that? Like saying things like, if you do so and so, you're a racist, and blah blah, things like that.
My God, I hate that so much. I have seen things on Twitter because, again, I'm a degenerate. But I have followed people who I know are very nice people, like because of like the stuff that they do, like they retweet like GoFundMe pages for like individuals that need it and stuff like that. But at the same time, they say stuff like you know, they say stuff like, you know, if you are white, like, please unfollow me now and stuff like that. And I'm like, I cannot affect what people who are born with the same skin color as I have done. I cannot change what they have done, but I can be conscious of my own actions and not do stuff. And I cannot take back I cannot take back the actions of my ancestors from the 1700s, the 1600s, and before then. However, I can do things to improve the world around me right now. But just saying, like, you know, stuff like, you know, if you're white, please unfollow me now. It's not going to do anything to help the overall problem that's happening because, to be honest, and I know this is something that some people might not want to hear, but you know, you have to also be in the mindset of the people who are actively trying to work against you, that, you know, if they see stuff like that, they'll end up just making more generalizations in their head. Like, it's not going to help the issue, and it'll only kind of hurt people in the long run. And I'm sorry that that's something that happens in the world, but it is something that happens in the world, and it's an issue. But but individuals can do things to help too, even if they are white.
Yeah, this is just something I want to add, but sorry, Bobby. It's not like it's just white people that are racist. There are plenty of other people in other races that are racist. Like, I know Asians are racist too. That happens, and that just pisses me off. What you told me about Kate, like how people are like, if you're white, unfollow me. That's just so ridiculous. First of all, it's not like every white person is racist. I know plenty of white people that are not racist, and it's just so stupid to me that people are lumped into this category that all white people are racist. They're all against Native Americans and African Americans and everyone. Like, it's so stupid. And then for them to just blatantly ignore other races that are racist is also this to me. That's all I wanted to add.
Yeah, when I came up with the example, I was specifically of one person. I don't know if I've talked to her about her with you guys specifically. Her name is That Vegan Teacher on TikTok, and she. Oh
no!
God.
Oh my God! Stop it!
Do not claim her, okay?
I have so much to talk about with her.
Oh God, I want to.
For those of you who do not know, That Vegan Teacher is an influencer on TikTok who claims that every single person who is not vegan is quote unquote vegan phobic, which is a term she coined, and that funds murder and will not get into heaven. And
You know what? I already knew I wasn't gonna go to heaven. Okay, but also, yeah, go ahead. You're vegan, Shweta, so you can speak on this.
As someone who's been vegan longer than her, she's been vegan since 2016 or 2017, and I've been vegan for about 6 years now. I don't think
Shweta, you're more powerful than her. You could use your vegan powers to defeat her.
Shweta can go Super Saiyan.
I am her teacher anyway. I don't think that she has the authority to put that, coin that term. And besides, she also puts a terrible name for vegans who are can I just say that a lot of vegans are portrayed as white women? There are a lot more people in a lot of other cultures who are vegan, and she's putting such a bad stereotype. Vegans are these really toxic people who won't listen to other people's ideals and believe. She even said that being gay or having some dietary issues is being vegan phobic, and you can't control that. You can't control being LGBTQ. You can't control being white. You can't control being having dietary issues or mental issues. That's not something you choose. You choose to be vegan.
Yeah, I do remember.
Yeah, I
think,
agree.
Oh, sorry.
You can go.
Okay. I was just gonna say, I remember there was like a reaction. Was it? I don't remember which video I watched, but I remember there was a clip of her where she was just like, if you are part of the LGBT community and you're not vegan, then like something like you don't actually care for human rights or something because you don't care for animal rights. It just didn't make sense. And this brings in the whole idea of like how I don't mind, I respect people's decisions unless you know, racism and stuff like that is involved. But I would like to say the reason why she's making this whole thing just like being vegan so just negative, I guess, for other people is that she's like forcing her ideals and beliefs on everyone else. Like there are some people that just maybe being vegan doesn't work for them as far as their diet goes, like Shveta said, and other situations. So God, she annoys me so much. I can talk about her forever because I hate her. But
Same.
Same.
She compared
Me too.
animal abuse to Nazism and the Holocaust, and she also compared it to disclaimer here. She sorry, I could have put a disclaimer before this, but she also compared it to abuse in a relationship and like other terrible things that have nothing to do with like animal abuse. I know that it's a problem. I also stand for animal rights. But at the same time, human rights need to be like acknowledged too. That's a whole thing about activism at this point. If you're going to be an activist for like animal rights, you have to see the same for all other kinds of like living beings. And humans are one of living beings in my opinion. So well, we are living, right?
Yeah, and
yes.
with the whole vegan teacher thing, I can't believe you killed this animal that was so awful and evil. And it's like they're doing that to Native Americans. Like that is just the most ridiculous thing to me because like Native cultures emphasize using every part of, you know, like an animal that's been killed, and like Native people are some of the biggest like the biggest I don't know that word, but like they're some of the biggest activists in
Advocates,
climate change. What?
advocates, I'd
Yeah,
say.
yeah, they're some of the biggest advocates against climate change and for, you know, in both human and animal rights. And it's just crazy how like some person who's been vegan for 2 months can go scream at a Native American person who's practicing culture like that is important to them and that is completely sustainable.
Yeah, so there's a lot I could talk about with that vegan teacher, but I just want to sum it up. A really good video I saw on YouTube. I subscribed to a channel called the Queer Kiwi, and she makes a lot of good videos, and I highly recommend watching her video on that vegan teacher if you want to. But just to sum up the important talked about, first of all, that term she coined, like vegan phobia, whatever. Like that's so ridiculous because, well, first of all, vegans aren't oppressed. Like if you say you're vegan, it's not gonna change your social standing. And to compare that to homophobia or sexism, that's so ridiculous and harmful, and that's just really stupid. And you guys are talking about how aggressive she is. Yeah, that is, yeah, it's a problem because who is that going to help if she's so stupidly aggressive towards people about changing to be vegan? Like, who is that going to help? No one's going to switch to veganism because you're yelling at them. No one's going to want to change their mind. It's going to make them more stubborn. And she also attacks minors. That's a huge problem. How old is she? 50, 60? I don't know, and I don't care. She attacks minors, and she's old enough to know that that's a problem. So, oh, and just to mention, that vegan teacher replied to the Queer Kiwi. Her video was absolute dog shit. Sorry for cursing. Kiwi made some sarcastic jokes in there, and that's all the vegan teacher focused on. Like she only commented on that and nothing about the important parts. And it's just so stupid to me because Kiwi was talking about how important it is, like Paige said, for people to be making smaller choices, like taking steps. Because going from vegetarian to vegan is already, like, sure, it's not terribly difficult, but it already is a big step. So going from non-vegetarian or vegan to straight to vegan is really difficult. So as you guys all put it, and as Kiwi put it, just for people to be taking small steps like no meat Monday or like veganuary, is that what people call it? I don't know, stuff like that, where people make these efforts for an extended period of time will help them make more vegan choices, even without being fully vegan. So yeah, that's all I had to say.
I'd like to comment on that too because I've seen she's using Paige, don't get angry at me, but she's been using a lot of ad hominem attack.
I was gonna be like, if you say logical fallacy.
Yeah, she's been using a lot of logical fallacies when talking about like veganism and like, you know, I am all for veganism. Good job for them. Because I love my chicky nuggies. And I also am incapable of drinking almond milk. So not because I am physically incapable of it, but I hate the taste. So more power to vegans. That's really great. Like all of the steps that vegans take to help the planet. But also the thing about the human brain is that spite is such a powerful thing. Every single time I watched another YouTuber named iNapper who responded to who has had a little discourse with that vegan teacher, and he said every single time he does a video on that vegan teacher, he like DoorDashes like a 20-piece like McDonald's chicken nuggets meal to his apartment because he just hates like he just hates hearing her force veganism on a bunch of people, and he used to be vegan. So that just shows how
I watched that video.
Yeah.
I watched that video.
I've seen that video as well.
Yeah, so spite is such a powerful thing. Like, you know, that's the same. It's the same way with like all very polarized discussions like veganism or non-veganism. Like politics is such a huge thing where spite is involved, and we are not going to get into that today. But but like that's why it's important to always address people on a level standing where it's like, okay, at least be nice to an individual when you're trying to bring you to your side of like your perspective, because you know you have to address someone at least as an equal, which that vegan teacher never does. And she always acts like she's the bigger person in a situation, and everyone is her quote unquote students, even though she hasn't been a teacher for many years. And she always like, you know, she thinks that she has that power standing over a person where that just is never the case. And I really hate her. Also, wait, what was I going to say? Wow. Anyways,
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
I hope she eats something non-vegan so I can laugh at her. Anyway, sorry.
Ooh, that reminded me.
Yeah, she actually got caught.
Yeah, another thing that I really don't like about her is the fact that she advocates for like vegan alternatives to honey, which is very, very bad for honeybees. And you'd think that for someone who advocates for animal rights, and I am calling her out, that vegan teacher, we can do a charity fist fight if you want to. Please don't. Crap, I can't use minor on it anymore. I am small and weak and very afraid, but I will verbally
I would charity fist fight her.
Yeah.
Well, you can all charity fist fight her at the same time.
This is our past project.
Yeah, I hate when people advocate for vegan alternatives for honey, because A, if you're getting it from a proper source, then honeybees, especially local people who like do who like create honey and like practice beekeeping as not like as a hobby per se, but like, you know, do it more for the bees and not for like the money. You know, you're getting like good products that don't involve any like inhumane practices, and they know what they're doing. And you know, if you're getting it from a big company, that's on you. But you know, honey is so important for the planet. Buying honey from like actual honeybees is such a very important thing, because that money is keeping those, it goes to keeping those bees safe, where our bee population is dying and we need all of the honeybees we can get. And the fact that she advocates for vegan alternatives to honey just makes me enraged. And you know, if it's a cultural thing, I am so down for it. You know, there are enough people who are still eating honey, but like the fact that she forces it onto people who like don't have a religious or cultural reasoning for not having vegan honey is just the worst thing possible. Please, please give your money to bees. Thank you.
As somebody who can name probably every part of a bee house and why it functions, and who wants to keep bees, and who begged their parents to keep bees for about a year, bees are so important to not God the economy, no, to the environment, because they're essential pollinators. And because with the current like macro agricultural system that we have, so many of the pollinators, like little flies and moths and all that stuff, are so depleted because of all the commercial pesticides, that bees are one of the only primary pollinators that we have left. And it is so incredibly important. Even just one beehive can do so much for an ecosystem. And like, if bees are stressed, if a colony is stressed, they just die or they move. Like, if bees are being abused or stressed, they will sting the heck out of you. Like, it is, and besides, they're insects. Like, they don't need a whole lot to be happy. Like, you give them a nice environment, you keep the hive relatively dry, you give them a ton of flowers, and you check on them. I know that bees are not like checked on every day. Like, the hive isn't pried open every single day, and they're not like terrorized. Like, they're checked maybe once every 2 weeks, and then only if the hive is undergoing some sort of large stress, like pests or robberies from other hives, will that hive be opened more. Like, the bees are left alone except to harvest the honey.
Also, I just want to add quickly, honey is just an interesting fact about honey. Honey is one of the only foods that never spoils, which makes it really good for like people who don't have fridges and stuff.
Yeah,
I just thought that was neat.
I'd just like to say that as a vegan, I was taught that honey is bad because it's not good for the bees, like that common misconception. But I don't. I'm not one of those vegans who have. What's the term? Eat, drink honey. Like, I don't use it. I mean, there are alternatives. I just don't think that those are like ethical. Like, I don't know how to say agave. Like, my parents used to buy it, but it's not good. Like, the plants are like like, they're so hard to maintain, and the working conditions of people are so terrible. You'd rather just have honey, because like, are you really going to exploit people for the sake of like having a better choice? No, it's not even a better choice. So, I mean, you could, if you want to be like that weird vegan who doesn't like have honey. I always think maple syrup is good. I mean, it's coming from a tree. That's all that's happening. So.
Yeah, maple syrup is the best alternative to honey, or just like combining sugar and water and like boiling it a little bit, like to create a sugar syrup. That's also basically honey.
Yeah, I was just gonna say maple syrup is a good alternative, because I don't know. Yeah, sorry.
I don't know the English word for it because I'm not that English, but like, like sugar blocks that are like directly from sugar canes. My parents use it a lot because it's readily available in India. But like, if you're not going to have processed sugar or like not high end, but like cheap honey, just have something that's natural, like like sugar cane or like blocky sugar cane. I don't know what the word for it is. Sorry, I'll look it up. It looks like blocky sugar cane, but it's not. I don't know the English word for it.
Irene, can I request something?
Yes.
When
What?
when Shveta says blocky sugarcane, can you just put like a Minecraft sugarcane block over the video?
Yeah, I got you.
yeah, hey,
I got you.
Guys,
I think it's very interesting how we went from performative activism to vegan alternatives to sugar.
Wait, unrefined brown sugar made from palm sap, which is the long word. But there's also like panela. Panela? What's panela? Jaggery's panela? I'm sorry.
Shveta will also be linking some honey alternatives in the description as we speak.
But
this kind of reminds me. I don't know, Kate. I don't know if you remember this, but in like sophomore year, we had this one teacher. I won't specify which class it was, but she was very adamant that like I think it was coconut oil or palm oil or something like that was very, very bad. Like
that's because it is. That's because it is. Oh my god! I watched an entire documentary on how bad
palm oil is evil.
Palm oil.
My point is, don't just get something because it's all natural. You have to consider if it's ethical all the way around.
Yeah, always check the thing at the bottom, and remember to actually look up the long words for things, because just because it has an unpronounceable name doesn't mean that it's actually like a bad thing. Like sometimes it's just preservatives.
The block sugar is perfectly good. Anyway, is the coconut oil actually that bad? Like,
palm oil is bad. Palm oil involves a lot of costs.
Okay, because coconut oil is bad. I was gonna freak out. Like India survives on coconut oil.
We've talked about everything from activism to helping the environment to, what people should do instead of what people think is right. And I think that in general, people should just put in a little bit of effort and see how far that goes.
Yes, Queen.
Keisha is uncancelled.
We love that.
Keisha is so based. Oh my god.
Based.
Keisha.
All
right. Thanks for tuning into our podcast. If you made it this far, contact me for a free $50 gift card to Red Robin, Toys R Us, or Outback Steakhouse.
If you want some GameStop stock, I can lend.
Remember that the economy is a social construct. Please
money
do
is
not
made
take
up.
my word for it. Please do
money
not.
Doesn't actually exist.
If you got this far and you haven't gone insane, please like the video and please subscribe. We don't do anything, so it's not really going to bother you.
And everything will actually be linked below. What?
Right. Bye, gamers.
Bye.
Bye, gamers.
Bye.